Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today we're going to be learning about Vincent van Gogh and a few of his famous paintings, and then we're going to be painting our own scary sunset or scary moon painting. But we're going to look at some of his expressionistic lines of how Van Gogh placed the paint. If you look at this painting that he did, this was one of his last paintings he did in a little town, I think it's pronounced Auvers-sur-Oise. I've been there once before, and I was actually standing at the corner right here where the three crossroads meet, right in the crossroads where the three little paths through the wheat field meet. And I was able to even walk through the wheat fields. It was really exciting and amazing. But it looks just like this today, even though this wheat field and these roads are over 100 years old. When he painted this, this was the last of his paintings, and let's look at this dark, dark sky and the crows coming across the wheat field. It's kind of anticipating a doom or anticipating a storm. So we're going to be trying to get this kind of scary feeling into our paintings today. And here's his glowing sunset right in here. But we're going to do a large sunset on our paintings, but I want you to get these expressionistic lines in your painting, just like Van Gogh did. And then, of course, we can add all of these crows or birds or whatever else you want to put in your painting. Now, I do want to let you know that in the same wheat field, it's kind of ironic that on the other side of this wheat field, that's where Van Gogh is actually buried. And I actually visited his grave there, so it's kind of cool there. So if you want to put a little gravestone in your, or build a cemetery in your scary painting today, you can. Let me go ahead and show you one of Van Gogh's paintings, one of his self-portraits, and that's actually what Van Gogh looked like when he was younger, right there. And of course, one of his paintings that he is very famous for is the Starry Night. And we're going to be using some ideas from this painting as well. Artists always take ideas from other artists and incorporate them into their paintings to make an original painting. We don't want to copy Van Gogh exactly, but we can get his good ideas and use them in our paintings. Look at these really cool star orbs. The lights that are shining and coming from the stars. Those are kind of neat. And then I really like this movement of these kind of stars flying through the sky, or shooting stars, or the sky moving here. It's kind of like the glowing after effects of a star. Scientists have studied this painting and said Van Gogh was brilliant to have been able to actually see with his eyes, without any kind of a visual aid, these orbs and glows and spirals and swirls in the sky. So they call him a genius for this painting. But we're going to go ahead and reproduce some of these swirls and orbs in our painting today. This is going to be the first step here. So the first step is we're going to be painting the moon coming up or the sunset. You can either do it as a sunset or the actual moon coming up over the horizon. And then we're going to do his star clusters and do some texture in the sky, the movement in the sky, and then do some lines on the ground. And this is going to be the base coat. So the first thing we're going to do is this, and then on top with black paint, you're going to be able to put in whatever you want, just like Van Gogh did. Last, he painted his crows on top of the field. So if you want to put anything else in to make this your scary picture, you can. Gravestones, haunted houses, or old houses, whatever you want. And he even painted this church, and that kind of gives me that haunted house feeling too, which is around the corner from this wheat field. So whatever you want to paint on top of it afterwards, as in that moon silhouette, you can. So we're going to go ahead and begin. And the first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to be using a dark color paper, and I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to just go into a light value of color. And I'm going to be working in the middle of our page. So I'm going to find the middle. And I'm just going to put a dot so that you can see the middle. It's kind of hard to see black on black in here, but once I start filling it in, you'll be able to see it better. But here's the dot, and on that dot, what we're going to do is we're going to divide this in half again, and this is going to be our ground line. So I'm going to make a straight horizontal line. So this is 1/4 of our page. Divide it in half, do a straight line, and a straight line. And I'm just using a yellow value for this. And I want my lines to be very expressionistic, like Vincent van Gogh's painting. And from this line, I'm going to divide it in half again, the sky. So I find the halfway point, I find the top of my page, I'm going to divide it in half and just put a dot. So now I have 4 sections of my paper. 1, 2, 3, 4. From this section, I'm going to curve down. I'm going to make my sunset. Curve down. And it's basically painting a half circle. A half circle. And then I'm going to fill it with lines. And I'm going to do rainbow arch lines like this. It's going to be like a rainbow arch. And I'm filling it with lines curving this way. I'm trying to recreate the texture and movement in Van Gogh's paintings, similar to his Starry Night. Basically, I'm taking the orbs that he made in Starry Night and just making this very, very, very large. This is going to become our harvest sunset in the style of Vincent van Gogh. So once I've made my light yellow lines, like that, let's see if you can see it a little bit better. Then in between, do some light orange lines. I can't really see that good. Let's see. I've got a 2nd grade class here with me, and they're learning this as well. So in between, you're using different values. Is that better? And then I'm actually going to put some white in too. The white really helps. Lighten up the value. And so it's dashes of color and work pretty quick. Van Gogh would do a painting in 1 day. Sometimes 2, but a lot of times he would finish it in 1 day. He worked very fast. He was real excited about doing the painting, and he would even, instead of eating, he would take the money, sometimes, a lot of times, and he would spend it on paint instead. He used a lot of paint. So basically I'm filling in, I'm painting with just short dashes of lines, and I'm laying the color next to one another. You see how I'm placing that down? You want to be able to see the different colors as you place the different colors. So it's dashes of color. So it looks like a fiery sunset. If somebody wants to bring me a container of red back there, and I'm going to just trim it on the outline with red. So I've used every value of yellow that I have. Light yellows, medium yellow, dark yellow. I've mixed some white in with this. And then I'm using some values of orange to create that fiery sunset. And I'm just doing dashes, little dashes of color placed next to each other. And I'm filling in most of my paper. It's okay if we leave some of the spots. I want this to be a glowing orange fiery sunset. And then the next thing we're going to work up is the swirls in our sky. And so we're making this kind of an eerie type picture, very similar to the feeling of Van Gogh's last painting here. Right there. Remember the last painting? This is the one he did right before he died. So it was a very dark, eerie feeling. Now we're going to work up, is there red paint back there? Now we're going to work up, as soon as I get my red, I'm going to trim it out a little bit with some red. I want some of that fiery red in here. And then we're going to go into the values of blue. And we're going to start up the swirls of the sky. And so in my blue palette here, I have ready some dark blues, some turquoise, some light blues, and then I've got some white in that sky. Now Van Gogh also used some yellows too, so keep your yellows. Okay, so we have it. All right, so now I just wanted a hint of it, the red. So we're gonna go ahead and just do some edges here. Now, don't have too much of that red, just a little bit on the edge. And I'm gonna just do it on one side, kind of like the way it's coming up and heating. And at the top a little bit. But I've only put a tiny amount in. And what it did was it blended with my orange, and red plus orange is red-orange, okay? So dashes of color, fill up your sun, and then I'm going to start in now on my swirls in my white sky, in the sky, to make this eerie sky. So you can start off. Actually, let me keep the yellow. I'm going to do some star swirls, some little orbs of stars. And don't do too many of these, and keep them pretty small while our brush is still yellow. And then just place around it dashes of color. That way the feeling, this gives a little bit of a Van Gogh Starry Night feeling to our painting. But we're doing kind of a scary night, a Van Gogh Scary Night painting. And then you're going to be able to use your imagination and put whatever you want down here. So this is the beginnings of our Scary Night painting. And Van Gogh, of course, did some crows flying in the wheat field. That gives that scary feeling. Okay, once you have a few stars in your sky, then go ahead, and it's just dashes of color around a dot. Then go ahead and do swirls of light blues, and you're doing this dashes around the sky. So dot, dash, dash, and these lines, they're kind of a curved dash, and you just continue making your orbs, and then you can connect them together. It's a painted dashes. Swirl it around. It's kind of like you're doing a treasure map. You start here, dash, 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 follow the stars, follow the path, fill it all in, and use up that whole page, and then do some different values in between of blue. Dash, dash, dash. You're tracing your stars now. Start over here, dash, dash, and trace them, leaving some of the paper showing, and then filling in between with different values of blue, dark blue, filling in to create your stars with these glowing orbs. And then you get that Van Gogh Starry Night feeling to your painting. And once we've filled in all this, now the ground you can fill in with some dark blues, light blues, in dashes of color, because this is how Van Gogh would lay his color down. Dashes of pure color placed next to each other on the canvas. And when I was looking at some of Van Gogh's paintings, he even left some of the canvas, raw canvas, showing in some of them. If you look up close, you can see that. And if you want to stick a little bit of yellows in here too, you can. Now when you hit yellow, look what's happening. Yellow plus blue is making what? Green. Yeah. So that's okay. Just be careful and be sure you wash your brush before you go into that yellow, because we don't want to contaminate that yellow. If you have yellow-green paint, that's fine. Your blue's not going to contaminate it. And that's our first step to filling in our page. So we have the sunset, or the moon, harvest moon, coming up. And then we have the Van Gogh Starry Night in the background. And then we have a lot of the Van Gogh texture down at the bottom. These impressionistic or expressionistic lines down here. Dashes of color so it fills up the whole page. Okay? So that's our first step. And then we're going to decorate the background. Then we're going to decorate and put some scary things on with some black paint. We're going to go ahead and finish our harvest moon. Or if you want to turn this, if this is your sunset, that's fine. So if you want it to be a moon, keep it a moon. You want it a sunset, keep it a sunset. That's up to you what you call it. But we're going to finish it. Now, I wanted to show you a few things from Van Gogh's past, or the history of Van Gogh. The last place that he lived was in a little town called Auvers-sur-Oise. And as you walk through the town, you go up a little tiny hill and you head toward a field that's on the top of the hill. Well, as you're walking, you pass by this church. And this is a 13th century church that was in existence when Van Gogh was there. And he actually painted this church. Let's see, I had a painting of this. Here it is, right here. He did this painting in Auvers-sur-Oise, which is a town about 25 or 20, between 25, 27 kilometers from Paris. But this is a very famous church that he painted. And like I said, it's on the way to the field where Van Gogh did his last painting. And this is actually the last painting that Van Gogh did right here, of the crows flying by, the sky. It's like at sunset time with dark clouds or dark sky right there. You can see that. So if you want to put some silhouettes, and a silhouette is a solid black image with a very interesting outline shape of something. You don't see the details of the inside of something, you just see the outline edge or the contour edge. So we're going to be doing some dark silhouettes. That's up to you if you want to do the dark silhouettes on top of your moon or sunset, whatever you call it. But this is the nights. This is the crows flying by, so if you want to put some of those in. Or you can actually even do some bats. Let me show you this painting here. This was an unusual painting that I found that Van Gogh did right here. I came across this. Now, I don't know what museum or collection this is a part of, but I came across it in some of my prints that I have in my room. So years ago, I must have cut this out of a book and saved it. But that's an actual bat that Van Gogh painted. So that's kind of a neat shape. So you can make maybe a silhouette of a bat. Or if you want to add some of these warm colors to it, you could paint a bat in the night sky or across your moon. But this church here, this is what, it kind of gives me this eerie feeling. And this was 1 month before Van Gogh died that he painted this. So you see the similarities to this painting here, where it was the last painting he painted with that dark, dark sky. Right in here. See the similarities to the skies? In here. Now, some people talk about this church and the way Van Gogh painted it. Well, this is exactly the way this church looks today from this view. If you look here, this is where the streets come. So you would walk up this hill to the field. So this is where Van Gogh walked every day to get to the top of the field to paint his beautiful paintings and sunflowers and wheat and harvest. So he would go up there to be alone. And some of the town folk were telling me that Van Gogh loved it because he was kind of an isolated person and liked to be alone. Well, up on the top of the wheat field, you're away from everybody. You can still hear the hustle and bustle of the little town, but you're by yourself. No one's bothering you. So he really enjoyed painting up there by himself. And so he had to walk by this church. So this church inspired him. And this is actually the same view. And you can kind of see here right in the front, this is where the road still is today. And then there was another crossroad right in here today. So he just sat in this grassy area, or stood in this grassy area, and painted this view of this church. And it just so happens that there's no doors on this side. Some people say it symbolizes that he wasn't wanting to go into the church or other meanings, but I think it was just, to me, it's just his view that he painted of it. This is really the prettiest architectural structure side of the church as you're looking at that church. but that's it today. And when Van Gogh painted it years ago, you see the windows were still there, and now the windows have been broken and smashed, so they're not replaced. Even on the top of the field, you can still see parts of the church. So this is a view today of the field up on top. So if you want to put a silhouette of a church, or you could do a haunted house if you wanted, or a scary house, since it's a harvest moon and it's October, if you want to put in that, you could. That's up to you. And I want to show you one other picture, or a couple other pictures from the top of the wheat field. Here's another picture from the wheat field, and this is the actual wheat field Van Gogh painted in this painting here. So this is on the top of the hill in Auvers-sur-Oise, and there's the wheat field. And here it is today. And the crossroads, I don't know if I have a picture of that one handy. I went there a few years ago. And here is Van Gogh's, I'm going to show you, let's see. And the top of the wheat field, you go to the right, and this is actually Van Gogh's grave. He's buried right up at the top of the field where he last made his painting. You go to the right of the field, if you walk up the hill, here's Van Gogh's grave, and that's also his brother Theo's. So today on your harvest moon, to finish your harvest moon, if you want to make this a scary picture, that's up to you. If you want to put some bats flying by or crows, there was actually lots of crows in the field when I went. You can finish this with black tempera paint, or you can even use some oil pastels. You can put in little graves. Say you want to do this as a cemetery. You can add your cemetery in the bottom, and with your oil pastels, go ahead and draw in. I'm going to stick Van Gogh's grave, and I'm going to put over here Theo's grave. So I'm making basically kind of a rectangle, and then I'll make a curve on top because his gravestone had a kind of an interesting shape to it. Color that in with oil pastel. You can also, like I said, if you choose to do some tempera paint on top, you could do that, however you want to finish it. And then I'm going to also do some dark, you could even put gray on top if you want to mix it, because the stone was probably granite. We usually use granite for our stones. I'm going to put a little bit of this on to blend in. And I would finish the same way over here. And then if you want to do some, you know, whatever else you want to make, you can make the scary church if you want. You can make a crow or a bat flying by in your silhouettes. And I'm just doing an oval with a wing up, down, down. So however you want to finish your Starry Night picture, you can. And here are some of the finished products. We worked on this for probably about 20, maybe 20 minutes to give our finishing touches, and we have some neat even highlights on those two gravestones. Lovely job there, awesome. And I like this one too. This just gives a field, so you don't necessarily have to make it spooky or scary. This just kind of reminds me of the fields that Van Gogh painted with his harvest moon. And then we have some, of course you can use your imagination and add all kinds of things to your picture. And then let me look at this one here. And this one's kind of cool too. We did some spirals and swirls with glitter as well. And if you want to look up one of my videos on how I glitter the kids' artwork, I have a video about how I glitter this so easy. It's a quick, easy method of glittering. And be sure and leave a comment and let me know how your harvest sunset or harvest moon came out.